Welcome to Conversations with Kay, where I just tell it like it is. This video is going to be more in depth on my other video I did on the Rhoden murders, or some people call it the Pike County Massacre. Horrible, horrible crime. It's still ongoing. I'm going to give an update at the end of this video on what's going on now with the trials and court dates. But I was shocked when I made my other video that more people hadn't heard about this or didn't know about it. So then I felt kind of bad because I didn't give any background on it, because I wrongly assumed that everybody knew what I was talking about. This was big, big news here in Ohio, but it was also nationwide. But I should never assume that people know what I'm talking about. So here we go. I'm going to give some background on this. It's a very convoluted story, so I'm going to try to just stick kind of bare bones so you don't get too bogged down. So, here's what happened. We have two families in a rural county in Ohio. One family is the Rhoden family. The other family is the Wagner family. These families know each other very well, and the Wagner's son got with the Rhoden's daughter, had a baby. They never got married. It was from what I've been told, a very toxic relationship between the two of them. This entire murders were done because Jake Wagner wanted custody of his daughter from Hannah Rhoden. He also believed that the baby she had just given birth to 4 days before she was murdered was his. So in his mind, now this is just my opinion, and this video is just my opinions and should not be construed as facts. He absolutely thought that 4-day-old baby was his. So he thought by murdering this family, he was going to get custody of both girls. Now, I talk about that in my other video about him thinking that second baby was his. So, he had hacked Hannah Rhoden's Facebook Messenger and gotten all of her messages and was reading them. One of her messages said, "I will never give him custody. To get custody of our daughter, he will have to kill me first." And from that moment on, he started planning her murder, along with all of her family, which is just heartbreaking. They murdered 8 members of one family. Now, the Rhodens that they murdered all lived spread out in trailers, and I think the other one was an RV that one was living in, but they're all on the same property, okay? So this family is spread out across this property, lived in trailers, one was in an RV. So the Wagner family, so it was Jake Wagner, Billy Wagner, George Wagner, and Angela Wagner. So his mom, his dad, and his brother helped him to commit these murders. The planning that went into this was in depth. I think Mike DeWine said it took them 4 months to plan these murders. They caught him on videotapes buying all the stuff to commit the murders. It kind of was creepy to me that they bought a lot of this stuff in the Walmart right by where I live. They weren't smart because they were able to track everything that the Wagners bought to pull off these murders. They also set up trail cams on the Rhoden's property so they could see how their schedules went, when they left, when they were awake, when they went to bed. They were watching them for months, planning these murders. Now, just to make it even worse, both of the grandmothers were also involved. So the one grandmother, on the Wagner side, forged custody papers, and I think she verified them. And then Frederica Wagner, who I talked about more in the other video, She has been accused of also knowing and helping to plan these murders, but the charges against her were dropped. I would call that family, the Wagner family, is, in my opinion, an enmeshed family. So that's a family where nobody learns to gain their own autonomy. They are so enmeshed with each other that they never, even after they grow up and get married, they never break off from their family at all. They are enmeshed together. And that's a perfect description of this family. Now, I went over this a little bit in my other video that I showed horses with members of this family. I knew Frederica. I didn't know her well, but I knew of her. I knew her history because I showed miniature horses. I showed horses with their other brother, Bobby Wagner, who is not involved. Not involved. That's why I said in my other video, a lot of people don't even realize there is another brother. So, it's just horrific when you think about how they planned to wipe out an entire family, 8 people, in one night. Think about that, 8 people. And what's so sad about it is some of the ones that they killed had their kids with them. Hannah's 4-day-old baby was laying in bed with her when they shot her. Thank goodness the baby was not harmed. There were 2 other children there that were not harmed, but were there when their parents were shot. It's just heartbreaking. When they went to the trailer, the 3-year-old boy they were trying to get in the door, and they were asking him to unlock it, and he didn't understand what was going on. It was just horrible. Just horrible. The previous picture was a picture of Frederica Wagner, the one that owns Flying W Horse Farm here in Ohio in Pike County. She's very wealthy, very religious. She is the matriarch of that family. So this is why I find it hard to believe that she didn't know what was going on, but she insists that she didn't. And again, the charges were dropped against her. I don't know. There's a lot of rumors going around. Here is an up-to-date picture of Jake Wagner. Now, he's the one that had the baby with Hannah and the reason why this whole thing occurred. Now, he has taken a plea deal and pled guilty to 23 charges. He's life in prison with no parole, but it got the death penalty taken off the table. It also, part of his plea deal was it took the death penalty off for his mom, his dad, and his brother. So, but none of them have pled guilty. They've still pled not guilty. Now, they just announced that his brother's, George's, trial date is now set for April of next year, which people find ironic because that'll be the anniversary of these murders. So he's still apparently going to trial as of today, next April. But I'll be really shocked. I really will if the rest don't plea out. But who knows? These are very obstinate, stubborn people. It has been said that they were planning a prison breakout. Because of this, when the Wagners were put in jail, they were not allowed to speak to each other. They were not allowed to get notes from their family. And I should point out that Frederica's daughter, Rhoden, lives at the farm, Flying W Farm. And she would go to court for her family members, and she would write things on her pants. It was crazy, I'm telling you. So she got in trouble with the court for writing things on her pants. She had brought clothes for them and was writing inside of the clothes messages to them. So they got in trouble for that. So even after they went to jail, the shenanigans were not ending. Let me tell you, they were not ending. The funny thing to me is I always said that he was going to turn on his family because he's so young. I Honestly, though, I thought that his mother and father might take a plea deal to save him, and they didn't. But he took one to save his mom, dad, and his brother. Allegedly. It's one of the craziest stories you'll ever hear about, and one of the saddest stories. The children, the state of Ohio won't say who has custody of the kids. I think, initially they were afraid somebody might come after those kids that were there. But now it's just for their safety, and not so much from the Wagners, but from everything, I think. I've heard that the 3-year-old boy is really struggling. He's getting counseling, but he still has memories of that day. I mean, it just breaks your heart to think about it. I hope he'll be okay. I'm glad they're getting him counseling. It just breaks your heart, this story. And somebody had asked in the comments on the other one, what was the feeling locally when this first happened? It was pretty crazy because there were so many different theories out there. There were some marijuana plants out at the Rhoden farm. So there was all these rumors that it was a cartel that came and did it. And I never believed that for a second, but that was the rumor around town. It was in the papers. It was on the news. Could this have been a cartel because they had marijuana plants? Then they said there was some fighting roosters and chickens out there, and maybe it was to do with that. I never thought that either. I always thought that it was the Wagner family. I always did. Another thing I need to point out, before they were arrested, when the heat was really coming on them, and they kept going back and searching Flying W Farm, which is 2,000 acres. So, they were sticking to the house and barns and stuff, but you're still talking about a lot to search. So they searched that place many times. Many times. I tried to look up how many. I know there was at least 3, but I feel like there could have been 5 searches. This is a picture of aerial shot of Flying W Farms, Frederica's farm, that was being searched. So you can see how hard that would be to search that. The other picture I have on here is the Rhoden family property. And this one is Flying W Farms. So the kids spend a lot of time there. Some of them lived there for a while. They were in and out. So that's why they kept searching this place. Her son was still working there and helping her sell horses. Now I guess that's mostly up to Robin. But I did digress a little bit. So my point was, sorry about that. My point was, when the heat was on, the Wagner family took Jake's daughter and him, his mom, his dad, his brother, and moved to Alaska. You should have seen living in Ohio when that happened. It was so funny because I got on Facebook that day, and it was all over Facebook. The police were asking, do you know where the Wagner family went? If you have any information, please call our tip line. They knew they had left. So as soon as that spread, people in Alaska started calling the tip line going, yeah, they're right here. And they stuck out like a sore thumb up there, let me tell you. They didn't know what they were doing. They were not prepared for Alaska weather. So people that lived there, lived near where they moved in, were telling them, you can't, this is Alaska. You need to be prepared. So they were really not doing well there at all. They couldn't get jobs. They just were not prepared to live in Alaska. The neighbors said, they would do things like leave stuff out that would attract bears. And the neighbors were like, you can't do that here. You got to be careful. There's bears. There's all this wildlife here. So, yeah, the people in Alaska were happy to turn them in. And I think we're happy to see them go. So once they were outed, they voluntarily came back to Ohio. So I think they knew they were going to go up there and get them anyway, so they went ahead and came back. I think they couldn't make it up there. There was rumors that they were literally starving to death up there because they couldn't get food and they couldn't get jobs and they were running out of money. And see, even though Frederica's very wealthy, I think her assets are valued at like $6 million or $4 million, somewhere in there. She probably couldn't send him money because they knew they were being watched by Ohio. So that's my theory on why she didn't send him money. She probably couldn't because they knew they were being watched so closely. The irony, too, is that, there was one interview that Frederica did with a news channel, and when they said, do you think your family had anything to do with killing the Rhoden family? And she put her hand on a Bible and said, I swear to God, my family had nothing to do with this. Well, now Jake has fessed up and said what he did. Now, he has admitted to firing 5 people. So that still leaves 3 more. A lot of people don't think Angela actually shot anybody, that it was probably just Jake and his dad. I don't know. They haven't gone that far with the information yet. That's probably coming. Another part of Jake's plea deal was that he does have to testify against his family members. Now, that shocked me. That did shock me that he agreed to do that. I was pretty surprised. I would love to be a bug on the wall and know what his family members think of him turning state's evidence. It can't be good. It cannot be good. If it does go to trial, I'm going to go watch. I am. I'm going to go to the courtroom and try to get in and watch. Let me tell you. Because I don't think it's going to go that far. I think they'll all get plea deals before then. George is the only one that's set a trial date so far. I just don't think it'll ever get there. But I could be wrong. We'll have to watch and see. So, yeah, that was some of the rumors going around. That it was a cartel. It was all these crazy things were out there. There were forums that were going nuts. Crazy poems that were getting posted on forums that were supposed to be clues to who did it. You'd never seen so much madness as when this was all going on. The forum that was the craziest was called Topics. I don't know if some of you, but some people have commented that in the comments. That forum has since been taken down because I guess they got sued so many times. Just crazy stuff that was going on. All kinds of people that said they had information that I don't think really did. I think they were just trying to get the limelight by posting on forums and saying they knew something. So, yeah, but it's so weird to me how I kind of knew some of the people involved, but not all of the people, and you just think this can't be real life. And I told this story on the other video, but my daughter has a friend who was at a bar, and Jake Wagner came in, and she was with Hannah's new boyfriend, who was the father of the baby she had just had when she was murdered. I know that gets confusing. But they were at a bar together, and Jake Wagner walked in and went straight up to him and said, "That's my baby she's carrying." And the guy was like, "No, it's not. It's my baby." And I'm using not the language they used, okay? It was not this friendly. They were about to come to blows, so they got kicked out of the bar. And that's why I knew that he absolutely thought that other baby was his. So he thought he was going to get custody of 2. And as soon as the murders were finished, he tried to get custody of the 4-day-old baby. Now, that's my thought. That's why he waited till she had that baby, because he was so convinced that second baby was his. But he was wrong. So, that brings you up to speed on everything up to date. Today, July 2021. So, if anything else pops up, I'll do an update. But now you have some of the background. Now you know some of the craziness that went on. You can't even really describe the craziness that went on. So let me know what you guys think. Hit me up down in the comments. Hit that subscribe button. Have a wonderful day. Hold your family close.